Good morning, ma'am. My name is Sushmayan. Under CAS 14 Pollution Control Cost, my part is Principles of Measurement. In that, first point is pollution control cost shall be the aggregate of direct and indirect cost relating to pollution control activity. Whatever the activities like to control the pollution, we conduct some of the activities like sanitary landfills, emission control system for automobiles, sedimentation tanks in sewage systems, electrostatic precipitation of impurities from industrial gas. These are the activities to control the pollution. So for that we incur some of the cost directly or indirectly. Direct cost may be the material cost, consumable stores, spares. These are the direct cost, and indirectly we incur some of the cost that are the cost which are cost of resources common to various pollution control activities. Next point is cost of pollution control which are internal to the entity shall be accounted for when incurred. In this point stated here that whatever the cost we incurred to control the pollution, this is the internal part of the entity, and they should be accounted for when it is incurred. They should be measured at an historical cost of that resources consumed. Next point is future remediation or disposal cost, which are expressed to be incurred with reasonable certainty as part of onerous contract or constructive contract. Here onerous or constructive contract means these contract will ask you to do something, but they will not give you anything in return. There are contracts where there is no remuneration for your work done. For example, if the government ask the industries to treat the pollution before disposing it to the air, water or soil, then that is a constructive obligation to the industry. But in return government will not give any remuneration to the industry. So these are legally enforceable, these costs which are incurred in future. For example, how it is measured means after 5 years the waste which the industry will going to collect in production process and need to dispose of after treating, this incurs 10 lakh rupees for future but not now. And every year we are accumulating some of the waste. uh, this is uh, this is in terms of tons. For example, after each year we incurring some of the waste expected that after 5 years we incurring of 6 tons of waste. In the first year 2 tons, second in rest of the 4 years we incur 1 ton each. This is all the measurement of this measurement for this point. ಈ 10 ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ರುಪೀಸ್ನ ಯಾವ ಥರ ಬೈಫಕೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಈಚ್ ಇಯರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, apportionment of this 10 lakh into 2 ton, first year is 2 ton divided by total ton after 5 years is 6 tons, so we get a 3,33,333 rupees cost for each year. Same likewise for the next year also we have to calculate and measure the cost. Next point is contingent future remediation or disposal cost, those likely to arise on account of future legislative changes on pollution. Here contingent future remediation means a cost which is contingent on some activity. For example, if Modi government comes in next election in 2021, then they will enact this particular law, because of which we incur, means industry will going to incur 10 lakh rupees. This should be a cost for the industry. And The treatment for this cost shall be treated as a cost until the incidence of such cost becomes reasonably certain and can be measured. Until unless the Modi government came to an existence, came this cost shall not be considered as a pollution control cost. Next point is cost of in-house pollution control activity. In-house pollution control activity means to control the pollution, various activities are conducted within the industry premises itself. So that contains equipments, manpower. So those are manpower, consumable stores, spares, equipment usage, utilities, and other resources used for such an activity. So those all contains pollution control activity. Those are considered as a pollution control cost. Next point is cost of pollution control activity carried out by outside the contractors inside the entity. When the contractor who is from outside the entity, but he will going to work inside the entity for such an activity of to control the pollution. On that moment, we have to pay some charges to the contractor. Along with that, contractor cost should include cost of materials, consumable stores, spares, manpower, equipment usage, utilities, and other costs incurred by the entity for such jobs. We have to bear all these costs. Next point is the cost of pollution control jobs carried out by contractor at its premises. When the contractor going to carry on his work at his premises, on that moment he will going to create an invoice that includes duties and taxes and other expenditure directly attributable, and after deducting the discounts, he will going to give the invoice that should be the cost that should be considered as a pollution control cost. Along with that, we have to bear the cost of other resources provided to the contractor. Next point is each type of pollution control shall be treated as a distinct activity. Each and every pollution control pollution may be either water pollution, air pollution, and soil pollution, that should be considered that should be treated as a distinct from one other. And if it is material and identifiable, we have to consider it as a pollution control cost. Next point is finance cost incurred in connection with the pollution control activities shall not be form a part of pollution control cost. Finance cost may be interest and borrowing cost. These are considered as a financial cost, and that should not be a part of pollution control cost. Next point is pollution control cost shall not include imputed cost. Imputed cost is also called as opportunity cost and the implicit cost. Imputed cost is a cost which is implied but not reflected in the financial report of the firm. So that should not be considered as a pollution control cost. In the next point, if in the next point related to pollution control activity, whether price variance occurs. Price variance occurs means difference between the standard cost. If the actual cost is more than the standard cost, on that moment we arise with the price variance. So that should be a part of pollution control cost. On the other hand, portion of usage variance, where when the usage variance arises means when the standard quantity is more than the actual quantity, when the actual quantity exceeds the standard quantity, on that moment usage variance occurs. If this occurs because of the normal reasons, that should be considered as a pollution control cost. If in the vice versa, if it happens in the because of abnormal reason, this should be excluded from the pollution control cost. Next point is any subsidies or incentives given by the government or any other institutions related to pollution control activity that should be reduced from the cost, that should be reduced to determine the cost object of uh, particular activity, so that subsidy must be excluded from pollution control cost. Next point is any pollution control cost resulting from abnormal circumstances. Any pollution control cost incur because of the abnormal circumstances, so there should be excluded from pollution control cost. Next point is fines, penalties, damages and similar levies paid to the statutory authorities or other third parties shall not be form a part of pollution control cost. Next point is any credits recoveries related to pollution control activity, material and quantifiable, shall be deducted to arrive at the net pollution control cost. Any credits and recoveries should not be considered as a pollution control cost. If it incurs means related to that activity, that should be deducted and net amount should be considered as a pollution control cost. Research and development cost to develop new process and new products or use of new materials to avoid or to mitigate the pollution shall be treated as a research and development cost, but that should not be included in the that should not be a part of pollution control cost. If the cost incurred if the cost incurred for the development of particular product of the company that should enhance or for the commercial development of the company, that should be considered as a pollution control cost, and that should be added to the cost of pollution control. Next, in the next point, any changes in the cost accounting principles applied for the measurement of a pollution control cost should be made only if it is required by law or for compliance with the requirements of cost accounting standards, or a change would result in a more appropriate preparation or presentation of cost statement of an organization. Thank you, ma'am. Next topic will be continued by Pradeep.